Welcome to the Missionaries Podcast. Stories from the mission field for everyone to listen, learn, and enjoy. Your host for today is Martin.
Welcome everybody to our first Missionaries Podcast. Yes, missionaries is in plural, so it's not just about me, but it's about missionaries. What are we going to talk about in this podcast? First, I looked it up on the weird wide interwebs. What does the word mission mean? And I found this in our own language. I translated it to English, and there it says, mission is the spreading of the Christian faith in another culture. The motivation for this goes back to the Great Commission that Jesus Christ gave to his disciples before he ascended to heaven. I don't know what you think about it, but hang on, let me read it once again, and we'll start with the first line. Mission is the spreading of the Christian faith in another culture. So what do you think about it? Well, it really it gives me the shivers, actually. In another culture. Why not your own culture? Come on. Why not your neighbor or somebody on the street in your local shopping mall? Why another culture? I actually got this off the Wikipedia page in Dutch. And the page also shows pictures of missionary projects. And guess what? All the missionary projects that are posted there, or at least the pictures, are from Africa. Well, just what I said. No, thank you. Mission is the spreading of the Christian faith in any culture, and that includes your own. And then we'll go up to the next line. And the next line says, the motivation for this goes back to the Great Commission that Jesus Christ gave to his disciples before he ascended to heaven. What do you think of that? The motivation for this goes back to the Great Commission that Jesus Christ gave to his disciples. So your motivation to do any sort of mission, evangelism, whatever, goes back to the Great Commission? Hang on, let me look it up pretty fast. What Webster says about the word commission. Hang on. Commission meaning instruction, command or role given to a person or group. What tickles me is command. There's also a song from Keith Green, I guess. Jesus commands us to go. And although I do get it, I find it some sort of weird. You only go to missions or do evangelism when you're commanded to go. You should do it out of love for what Jesus did for you. Or at least that's what I think. If you're only doing it because of God is commanding you to do it, if that's the way you think about it, it might be time to look into your heart and think about it. Do you really understand what Jesus did for you? If you do understand what he did for you, you want to shout it off the rooftops. Let me give you an example. Everybody who knows me just a little bit knows that I'm into model trains. If you come to our place, you'll see model trains everywhere. If it's not books, it's the trains itself. If it's a poster, it's a whatsoever. There's no way of escaping it. I try to sneak it in actually in every other conversation, since it's my great passion. And there's nobody who's commanding me to promote model train hobbies of some sort. Just to give you another example, I'm married to my wife. And everybody who sees us and everybody who's talking to me, I'll let them know, hey, I'm married to my wife, I love her a lot. And everybody who sees me can also see that I love my wife. If they want to hear it or not, I'll tell them. I'll tell them what we do. I'm telling them what we're doing mission trips. We visit museums. They can see it. nobody actually, or actually my wife never asked me or commanded me that I have to share what I feel for her. I do it out of love because I love her. So that command thingy is, well, it tickles me off actually. But you get the idea. If you really know what Jesus did for you, yeah, you'll go on a mission trip, you go on evangelism, whatever. Your neighbor, your boss, your colleague, your whatever. You want to shout it off the rooftops, and well, that's what this podcast is all about. We want to help you to start evangelizing. My English is not that great this morning. Sorry for that. So we want to help you with that. And we're going to invite other missionaries, and we're going to tell our stories. What went great, what didn't go great, what did we learn, and how did God help us with that? Hang on, let's go back to the Great Commission. Let's look it up. There we go. Matthew 28:16 through 20, I guess. Let's see. Let's start at verse 18. So Matthew 28:18 through 20. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded to you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." It's actually, the end is great. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter if you're a missionary or you've got a commercial job or whatever. Jesus ended with, surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. So God is always there with you, even when things don't go great. And that's what life is here on earth. Let's see, is there anything else? No, it's actually pretty clear what Jesus asked us to do. I still don't see it as a command. Well, we just talked about it. Let it go. Yeah, so that's what we want to talk about in this podcast series. Let's get another Bible verse. That's actually a Bible verse that also tells us, or tells you, why we're doing this podcast series. Romans, let's look it up. Romans 8 verse 28. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. That actually fits perfectly for anybody who is doing any sort of evangelism. God called you to do it. Because you love Him. And it starts with, and we know that in all things God works for the good. Sometimes in the mission field it's not easy, we go through ups and downs, but God has a reason, God has a plan. God does allow challenges. And we sometimes wonder why, but He does have a plan. And with God we go through it, and He will help us, just as we just read in Matthew 28. And this podcast series is about the next point actually. We can testify what it has taught us and how it made us more effective for God's kingdom. Yeah, we go through rough times. Well, we all go through rough times. And God will help us, so we might as well use that to encourage others. If God helped you with A, B, or C, why don't you tell it to other people so you can give them just a little bit of encouragement and tell how great God has been. Let's be honest, not all the time you figure out why things did happen, but God did have a plan. And how great is it when you did figure out, or God has showed you why it was? Why don't we use it to make God to worship God actually? So that's what we want to do in this podcast series. Yeah, And so let's have a look at some of the questions that we could try to answer in this podcast series. A friend of mine sent me a couple of examples. Well, one of the examples is this one. Oh, this is actually a great one. How is sharing Christ with others on the mission field different from evangelizing back at home? Is it different? And if so, what are the differences and what can we learn from it? Another question, how about this one? What has been one of the most difficult challenges you faced as a missionary, pastor, Christian? And how has it helped you to grow personally? And how has that lesson made you more effective for God's kingdom so that it can be a lesson to others? And the others are you as a listener to our podcast. So those are some example questions. And of course, we're going to talk about typical missionary stuff. Missionary stuff that you as a listener might or might not know, actually. One thing that always makes missionaries giggle is the making of the newsletters. That's quite a thing. We don't have any problem with it, actually. But a lot of missionaries do. You have to write the newsletters. What are you going to put in it? Do you have any news? And if so, what sort of news are you going to spread? It's one of the things that a lot of missionaries actually feel that they have to do. Let's be honest. Sometimes it feels weird to talk about yourself, what you've done, stuff like that. Writing newsletters can be quite a task. That's one of the topics. Dealing with your finances. Yeah, God is providing for us. We're still alive. We're not hungry. So how does that work? People try to help you. Sometimes they do send money. How do you deal with that? It's not your money. It's God's money. So how do you deal with that? How about your home church? That's another thing. How about your home church? You probably left your country. And why is your home church so important? It's one of the things that, we just can't say loud enough. I mean, your home church is so important. Take care of it. So it's not only getting things from your home church, but also giving things back to your home church. This is way more important. You experience a lot. And why don't you share those stories with your home church? Give them an encouragement. What's happening on the mission field? So those are a couple of things that we could talk about through this podcast series. And that's about it. That's about it, I guess. We're going to invite a couple of other missionaries every now and then, so they can talk about what God is doing in their life, what they're doing for God, what went well, what didn't go well, and what can we learn from it, you as a listener and we as fellow missionaries. And that's what we're going to do. If you want to join us, go to our website, me.pl, and send us a message. We would love to have you online and talk with you about all the things that you've been going through. We would love to have you here. Now you know what missions is, what the Bible says what missions is, why we should do it, and why we're doing this podcast. So thank you very much for listening, and hope to talk to you soon. God bless you all.
Thank you for listening to the Missionaries Podcast. For more information about this podcast and how you can help us, visit www.me.pl. God bless, and keep up the great work for God's glory.